Wake up. It's time for Primal Scream.
Is this a morning podcast?
Good evening and welcome to Primal Scream.
I do love that intro.
It's September 25th, and we were going to have this really... It's going to sound like I'm upset, but I'm not. But I was really focused. I was 100% watching videos. I had fucking cheat cards everywhere.
I got my questions pulled up on my computer. I'm ready to go.
I'm sure Jared will sometime make it in, and I'm actually glad that I told Rock, I'm glad that he has priorities, and he ditched us to help his family. So that's actually pretty cool.
And that's the kind of guy he is. He's not making nothing.
Yeah. So
enjoy fixing that fence.
But the cool part is that all of you at home listening to this, you get to know it's going to be fucking crazy.
You have absolutely no idea.
We have no idea what we're going to talk about, but we're going to talk about a lot.
I would imagine we will.
What did we talk about? I also wanted to ask you, what was your ideas about having a podcast, a recording after the podcast? Because after we said goodbye,
we had
last
a great
time,
conversation.
we had another conversation. We should have just had the...
Well, my point, though, was to say that every podcast should be like that. We should find a place that we feel so comfortable that it's always that kind of conversation. Because we get to be a little... in the box, kind of like certain things, talk about certain stuff, and we put the headphones on, the microphones, and we get a little stiff, I think. And that conversation was just kind of unbarred.
Hey, and by the way, I'm Matt.
I'm Todd.
I'm Rock.
I'm Junior.
Yeah, we have 4 people this time.
Junior.
This is the first time we've had a foursome.
Yeah, it is. This is a good thing to try out.
My first foursome.
4 dudes.
Yeah. 4 dudes. My first foursome, 4 dudes.
Hey, gotta throw it in there, right?
Gotta make
If
sure
anybody's going to know how to make me feel good, it's another man.
Indeed.
that is true.
You know, gay guys probably have really great lives. You know, they understand each other so well compared to like a man understanding a woman understanding a man.
trying to figure shit out.
Maybe from
That's why lesbians
the
probably get along pretty
physical,
well too. Same thing.
maybe from the physical point of view, but there's a lot of gay people that I see on TV. I'm like, I don't get you. I don't understand what you're doing, what you're saying, how you're.
I think that's just people.
Conduct. Yeah.
Thank you, Junior. I appreciate that.
Well, I don't think he meant that just because they're gay.
No, I'm not. Yeah,
I am teasing.
the first comment about a man knows another man is like, yeah, but
It's a pleasure a man is for sure.
Yeah, you know, I mean, a guy tries to understand a girl, doesn't really work out so well. You're always gonna have conflict. 2 dudes, they understand that, you know, all dudes want to do is do it.
Exactly.
So they'll go out, they'll have a good time, have a few drinks, and you know what? And they're probably doing it like 3 times a day.
And Andrew Sullivan made a big thing about that they thought like gay men were more promiscuous, excuse me. And the
sexually active.
Yeah, but the fact is that it's 2 men who are full of testosterone. So it's probably a pretty good chance that they're going to be having sex more often than a guy and a girl, because sometimes women don't want to have sex.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So.
Some girls do not want to have sex that often. Some want to have it all the damn time. But when you got 2 dudes in a relationship together, you know, they're going to be going at it. They're probably going to have a lot of very similar interests that most guy-girl relationships
don't
have.
Again, you like Andrew Sullivan, the Daily Dish on the internet. Fantastic writer. Gay guy. Just got married because he just got legally able to be married. And had this, I mean, so it has nothing to do with, you know, people making comments about people being promiscuous. It's more of like just the way guys are physically built. That's what we want to do, and that's what we like to do. And like you said, asses and breasts walk by, and we like them. And then in their instance, another type pair of jeans and
great body.
We're programmed.
They're happy as a clam.
We're programmed through natural selection to want to do it all the time. Why do you think when you're with a girl for a very long time, or even a short amount of time, all of a sudden you start craving the strange? You know, it's evolutionary.
You know what?
built into us.
I was going to make that comment about you tonight.
Craving the strange. I crave the strange when he.
No.
When it comes to podcasts,
I was all nervous to think about Jared coming over. I was like, all right, I got to get the wires set up. And it made me start thinking about, That was like how I was the first time Rock came over.
Oh,
But now I've had that.
I want something new.
So I'm looking for something new.
Something fresh.
The new girl deserves all the attention. I hear you. Back burner for the Rock. That's awesome.
Unusual for me to think of as I was prepping the podcast room today.
I was telling Rock that the free will conversation.
Yeah.
I listened to the TED talk that he gave, and I listened to him on Joe Rogan after we did our
Talking about
conversation.
Sam Harris.
What did I say?
You're just saying him. I just want people at home to know.
Sam Harris. Sorry, the free speech or the free will
Free will.
talk. Those two were much better. I wish I had listened to those two for sure, because
The TED Talk.
the TED talk for sure, because he talked to, he was again having to kind of explain things to people and put it in layman terms, which I really appreciated. The conversation and the debates, he's kind of blasting people with statistics and stuff like that. And the parts of it I got, the parts I couldn't wrap my brain around. The TED talk, got it, loved it. The stuff on Joe Rogan, again, he's dumbing it down for the meathead that Joe Rogan is. Again, awesome. Listen to that, because all of a sudden I got it. So I wish I'd listened to those two. And I almost feel like I didn't do as good a job as I could have, because I finally got a lot of it.
But you know what? You did what we hope the people that are listening to this podcast do.
Sure.
Is you hear something, you're like, oh, that's a little interesting, and I'll look further into that, and maybe I'll Google his name and watch another video. And then you get a deeper understanding of it, because you're not going to listen to this podcast and be like, oh, I've achieved I've achieved that level.
I am the Buddha.
I am. Yeah, you're not going to do that.
I'm not gonna do that.
Listening to this, you'll be entertained, and you might hear something, one or two things that you haven't heard before.
Curious to hear about all that. I mean, he's really trying to expand himself, and he's doing that by taking psychotropic drugs. He's doing it by meditating and prayer. I mean, he's doing all these things to try to see what he can do to expand himself. It just really impressed me. Because, I mean, we talk about the primal scream being something that we're always containing and being, we're always worried. Yeah. We're always, anxious about certain aspects of our life. Hence the names we give each other. So we're not, our real selves in the sense.
Right.
But he's just like, he's always leaping. He's always like, what can I do next? How can I expand my knowledge base? How can I expand my thinking? I just think he's a pretty incredible guy.
Through no free will of his own, too, by the way.
Exactly.
just kind of the way he is. And he would admit this.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. And when just last week when we were getting ready to do the Sam Harris talk, I was listening to Joe Rogan, and he said, I only have this ability to be as free as I am with my speech because I'm not chained to a salary.
I can't get fired because what comment I make.
When you're free of those inhibitions because you're not worried about money, you're not worried about a paycheck and somebody getting pissed at me, you're like, you can't pay your bills.
Yeah, that's the way we all should have the luxury of being able to.
You're absolutely right.
I just wish that's the way it was. We didn't have to be so politically correct all the time.
Do you think Joe Rogan always mentions that's from our Puritan base back when we first started. Do you think that's why we try and limit our speech so much, or is there some other reason, do you think?
I just think
that's a good question.
That's a very good question. And it probably has something to do with that. And I think, we've come a long way since then. And now we have modern day political correctness where if you say the wrong thing, the wrong time, if you work for government, they can come back on you. Or if you're in any kind of arena like that, everything you say is kind of scrutinized. And in the day and age of social network, everything's open.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a legitimacy to that too. I think they just recalled 2 senators or 2 House representatives in Colorado because they both mentioned the idea of maybe doing more universal background checks would be better for people who are going to purchase guns. Boom, recalled. Boom, both out just like that. So I mean,
so how is it that is so easy to do with those 2 guys? But then you had somebody in Wisconsin. Who was the last guy in Wisconsin that was like, we're gonna break the unions in Wisconsin?
Oh yeah, but
Walker, maybe
Walker, but he had a huge following. He had the unions, and the media had the unions on point, stuff like that.
I know, but I didn't hear nothing about these people that got recalled recently and gone.
Oh,
but it was a huge deal there,
right?
I mean, if it wasn't for him, that stuff wouldn't have been brought up.
Right. You're right.
It wouldn't have been in the media at all.
That's why I'm wondering, because I mean, that was in the media because it was the unions, it was the teacher unions, which of course can't be touched. They're too precious. And I think that had to do with gun rules. And I think it was Bill Maher who said, If you needed a better example that you are not going to screw with the Second Amendment, no matter what you think it is, don't even start to do it because it's just not worth your political career. It's not worth the blowback.
Yeah, I think it depends on where you're at. I mean, you can be anti-gun all day long in San Francisco, and they're going to love the hell out of you. But
True.
In Colorado, where you half the state lives in rural areas,
Exactly.
Knowing your audience,
they're talking about breaking. People in northern Colorado are actually right now talking about breaking off from the other more urban part of Colorado, where Denver is and all that, becoming the 51st state because they don't feel like they're adequately represented in the state Senate and the state House.
I think it's the same group who put a if you shut down a drone, you got I think you could go buy licenses to shoot down drones, and if you got one, you could keep it. There was some kind of crazy thing. And of course, they changed the law right away to say you couldn't do that; it'd be illegal. But I think that same group was saying we don't want drones flying over us, even if it is for the police, and even if it is for whatever.
I tend to feel the same way. I don't want drones flying around my skies. I don't trust government enough to let them fly drones around.
And it scares me right away because I mean, part of it is that the word drone. All I think about is some Hellfire missile. But second of all, the idea that again we're removing, human beings from things. You know what I mean? I don't trust. I shouldn't say that people are bad that do this, but a guy behind a joystick with a flying machine is different than a guy flying in a plane. I just think there's a disconnect there that worries me.
And it takes away a lot of the accountability, especially in the technological age. If you were to, I don't know how that kind of technology works, but if you couldn't track who used that, if they had some kind of device that you couldn't track who was the one controlling it, then you can do anything you want.
Right.
Did you ever see the Star Trek episode where Captain Kirk goes to a planet and they've been at war for hundreds and hundreds of years, and basically he's in this city, and all of a sudden the lights are going off, and they're like, "This part of the city's been destroyed." Hasn't been destroyed. What the fuck's going on? All people in this part of the city, please report to the death chambers. It was a voluntary thing. That world had become so completely disconnected from anybody actually having hands-on, face-to-face confrontation wars that they were fighting wars just by pushing a button.
Right.
And it was just, it became like a battleship type of real world scenario to where
that's what we're going
my
towards.
bomb has hit this part of the city. So if you want to have a clean war, you need to follow these rules. And when this part hits this part of the city, or this bomb hits this part of whatever we report, your people have to go to these chambers and they just fry you and you're gone. Just boom.
Then why wouldn't we just take away the death part altogether? That'd be the simplest thing. It'd just be like, okay, like almost if you were to have a fake war, like I don't know if you were to like what LARPing is, where like
sure.
Like it'd be that same idea that no one actually dies, but whoever wins that battle wins the war, gets what they want.
It's a politician's thing. Do you really give a fuck what's going on in China? The guy who's running China, does it affect you personally at home when you get up in the middle of the night and you get some groceries or whatever? No. It doesn't bother you, but it bothers the politicians who deal with that guy, and they're trying to make some fucking squirrely agreement to get something done.
But when it comes down to fighting the war, they make it feel like they're attacking us, the common man, so we need to stand up and go fight and protect the interest of ourselves, when really it's not our interest, it's the people at the top calling the decisions, having a quarrel with the people at the top of that other country.
And they're certainly not going to have...
Right. It's the one percenters at disagreements with one percenters, and they're like, well, I know how to get my point across.
And they make their people feel like they're being attacked.
It's like kings back in the medieval times too. They would say, "Oh, we have to fight these guys to take back land or whatever," and those people didn't gain from that land. They just died for it.
A lot of that stems from patriotism. They pound patriotism in our heads, and the public school system, saying the pledge every day, and the way that social studies is taught, and from a biased point of view. So you're taught from childhood, it's ingrained within you to love your country. So that makes it easy for when you're adults for them to persuade you that if there's a problem with another country, like, oh, that's an attack on me. That's an attack on me.
Right. Well, they did the same thing when we went to Iraq and Afghanistan, and people were standing up and going, "Hey, I don't agree with this war." Oh, you don't approve. You don't support our troops. You don't support the troops.
But see,
oh no, I don't want to say I don't support the troops. you gotta figure something out. You gotta redefine it somehow. You gotta say, no, you can't say that. It's not fair for you to say that. I support every American here. I support life.
Right.
I don't want people to get hurt. It's not important. We can figure a different way out so that we're not killing people.
Well, I always make comments about America and our history and of itself, the things that we've screwed up and done, whether it's assassinate people and then put our own dictators in, which eventually went south on us anyways, always happened.
Sure.
And then it's like, if I ever said, well, sure we should do this, people are like, well, if you don't like it here, just go somewhere else.
I hate that.
And I'm just like,
I hate that.
I can't have my opinion. This part of me being an American is the idea that I can have my opinion. And it's okay for me to think that I can support my troops, knowing that they trust in us and trust in our government, not to put them in places that are going to be putting them in danger. That doesn't mean, because that is a perfect example of me supporting my troops, but not going to war.
I think that's part of it, though. Is the plan is if they let's say they were going to take away your right to say whatever you want, you'd have people rioting in the streets, and revolution or whatever would happen. But if they make it as hard for you as possible to say what you want without being publicly attacked, then you're going to think twice, and then you can't rise up. Then.
But people do get publicly attacked. I mean, there were protests. Was it Berkeley, where they had video of a police officer with a huge canister.
Yeah, it was Berkeley.
Yeah.
Of mace and
just walked over.
They're all just sitting there.
They're not doing shit.
Well, the Kent State massacre, where the National Guards
shot
a bunch of people. Yeah.
Was that in the 60s?
60s or 70s. Yeah.
60s.
That's what that picture with that lady over the dead body.
You don't
Really
hear about that
tragic
one
picture.
too much.
No.
You hear about Columbine and things like that.
Or you don't hear about the U.S. vets who walked or marched on Washington, and then they just rolled tanks in on them. They weren't getting their final pay, but I can't remember which war it was. And they all petitioned Washington and sat on Washington on the front lawn of the White House. And instead of the president saying, like, oh, let's talk to him, let's work this out, he just sent in National Guard and forced them out.
Which president did that?
I have no idea. You'd have to look it up. But I remember hearing that on U.S. Or in
Junior,
our government class. Actually.
Come with data, please. Let's go.
Well, I don't have a fancy laptop like you guys do in front of me. Everything's from my mind.
It's from my mind.
That's how free I am. Everything is from my mind.
But yeah, support the troops is such a cliche statement. Everybody's supposed to support the troops, but it kind of keeps us from asking the bigger question: do we support the policy? Do we support what the troops are doing, what their mission is, and whatever else they're doing all around the world? The cliche statement keeps people from really having that conversation, I think.
I do think it's good that it protects the troops from like a Vietnam situation where, people who didn't want to be there in the first place in the draft, and they come back and get spit on and called baby killers when they just wanted to come home really at the end. And they can't.
I'm guessing, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people, no matter what war you're in, after a while, it's not fucking cool anymore. After you actually, when reality hits home of who is getting hurt, of what you're seeing.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting when Nick is on here next week. We have a CrossFit trainer coming on next week, Nick Rosen. He'll be promoting his gym or his box, as well as some of the, talking about CrossFit nutrition, things like that.
Every time you say it makes me think of big vagina.
Big box. His box.
When you're talking about his box. Wow.
And
manly chick.
He's a pretty serious guy, and I wonder what his opinion will be about the military stuff, because he was in Afghanistan for, I think, 2 or 3 tours, and so it'll be interesting to see his perspective, because I think Rock has a really unique perspective, and having been, signed up after 9/11, having signed up and gone into those places and dealt with that stuff, and then while in there said, why are we doing this? And then coming out having even more perspective on what happened. So Nick's a different dude, and I don't know him that well yet. It'll be really interesting to pick his brain and see what happens.
The biggest thing that woke me up was I heard Ron Paul give an analogy. This is before I was a big Ron Paul supporter. I heard him give the analogy of, what would we do?
Oh, I love this one. Yeah.
If the Chinese invaded our country, overthrew our government, and started policing our streets with their military vehicles? How would we react? Would we react in defiance? Would we set up roadside bombs? Would we try to do what we can to deter this foreign force within our borders? I think we probably would.
Yeah.
And then when it comes, that made me really, really reevaluate the way I thought about our foreign policy and everything that we did and are continuing to do in Iraq and Afghanistan, Pakistan, Libya, all those countries. So that analogy really, really ignited curiosity in me and a spark to learn more about what's going on.
I've seen that. It was a YouTube video. It was where I saw it, and I love that analogy too. I read a lot of the comments and stuff and kind of got involved with that. And a lot of the comments were like, the reason we went over there was because we were attacked. That was the whole reason. Like, if
you talking Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Okay.
With that, if we were like, and I don't believe, I have my own opinions on 9/11 and all that. But, and then they were saying on there that if we attack China, it's China's right to invade us, right? Like they'd be right to do that.
That would be a just cause.
Yeah,
You're
but
right.
But then the person that I commented, another person on there was agreeing with me, was that we don't have exact proof, and it wasn't people of Afghanistan who attacked us. It was a person, and if you believe that Osama bin Laden attacked us. But we attacked a country for one man's, misdeeds that wasn't necessarily the whole idea of the people that were the country that we attacked.
And we've been occupying that country for over a decade. And, a couple of years ago, I saw an experiment where they did like a survey or a poll in Afghanistan. They showed them pictures of the Twin Towers getting hit by planes of regular citizens. Over 90% of the people had no clue what 9/11 is. So they really don't have a clue why U.S. military have
Why are you fuckers here?
Yeah, they have no clue. The only people who did were like high-ranking police officers, And
Sure.
I can't remember where that experiment came from, but I'm sure you could look it up and Google something similar along those lines and find it. There's some YouTube videos that explain all about how they did it, the methodology of the experiment and everything. But it was super interesting. It's like, here we are. We've been occupying this country for over a decade. The people have no fucking clue what 9/11 is or why we're even there. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
Yeah, the common person.
Right.
Yeah, the common man, right? The common villager.
Well, let me tell you what, Herbert Hoover is the one who
Hoover. That's
kicked all the World War I veterans out of the park who hadn't gotten their pay.
That's what it was.
It was Herbert Hoover.
Thank God we have a monument to him.
We have a dam. Big, humongous
Dude,
dam.
I'm talking like West Branch.
Yeah.
Right?
Herbert Hoover.
And we're talking about people who fought one of the worst,
Okay.
wars in history. And
We all make mistakes, guys. Give this guy some slack. He's got a great museum.
He's got a nice dam, too.
Great
He's
dam.
wonderful. He's dead.
All presidents are wonderful. They're all deified in this country. We're supposed to love them all. We put them all on a pedestal.
except for Nixon.
All right. Does it seem weird at all that for weeks and months we were like really pushed and kind of driven into the emotional feel of we got to go back to war. We got to go back to war.
They tried, didn't they?
Right? And as soon as the votes came in and they're like, no, fucker, we're not going back to war.
Yeah.
The U.S. people don't want this.
That's
by
why
a
it's
huge
significant.
majority. We're going to freak the fuck out.
That's why I said I think that Obama did that.
Yeah, but
But he didn't do what he should have done in the beginning, which is gone to Congress. I think he was gonna do it on his own.
Oh, fuck
But-
yeah.
And then he went to and then he saw the polls and thought, shit.
And then London backed out.
And then London back down. So then he went to Congress and said, okay, what do you guys think? With his fingers crossed. Oh, Pinky, please,
Right.
it's not, don't let it go through. That's what I think happened.
And that is significant. That shows, the presidents of the past few decades have been able to do whatever they want with the military. And this is significant. The people are standing up and saying, hey, we've had enough of this shit. We don't want to be the policemen of the world anymore.
Exactly.
If they want to let them do in the Middle East what they're going to do. Let's protect this country and stay the fuck out of everybody else's shit.
Yeah.
I think it's a real significant deal that the polls are showing we're against this.
I totally agree.
From my point of view, I got to that point, and then all of a sudden, it was like I instinctively felt like I'm being mind fucked.
Yes.
Immediately, just recently with these videos of the Somali mall,
The mall
shooting,
Mhm.
it's like this shit is going on all the time. All this shit is happening all the time. There's some atrocity like this happening all over the world. And I just immediately, when I first saw it, just immediately gut-wrenching feeling. I'm being manipulated
Right.
immediately. I'm not being told this to educate me. I'm being told this because 4 months from now, I'm trying to prime you. You know,
Right.
it's like the leaders of our government.
Well, it's like
up.
It's like people say.
I'm getting lubed. Why am I getting lubed right now? I feel like I'm
it goes
getting
back to the
lubed.
idea that we have 400,000 people die a year from cancer. We have hundreds of thousands of people that die every year because of all kinds of things that happen. So how come we have certain things that happen in other places and somehow, we need to be involved. We're not doing half the stuff here. Somebody said, imagine if we rebuilt Detroit like they are trying to rebuild Iraq.
Yeah.
Could that be a better city? You know, it's
But
like
there's no oil in Iraq.
You mean in Detroit?
Or sorry, in Detroit. Yeah, there is oil in it.
And if there was, we'd already got control of it. You know,
We would have to rebuild it anyway.
Well, it's like we gave the Native Americans the Black Hills, right? Big fucking desert, nothing there but scrub and jackrabbits and shit like that. And then they discover Black Hills gold. Oh, sorry, man, mistake. We gotta get you guys out of
yeah,
here.
I'm going to move you over a little bit.
Just a little bit more and a little bit
Gee,
more. and a
you're
little
getting
bit more.
terrible.
You're going to enjoy everything to the east. I don't even
Exactly.
know. I'm just guessing. Let's see. I put U.S. top 15 causes of death. Let's see.
Let me guess.
Suicide?
Heart disease, number one.
Suicide.
Handguns.
Motherfucker. Heart disease is number one. I don't know what the numbers are.
Can you hand me that king size Snicker bar over there, please?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I just ate it. Hardee's. I'll get to that.
I wanted to thicken up
I'm going to get to that Snickers.
thicken up my blood before the podcast.
Yeah.
Slow myself
I
down.
almost passed out.
So is being attacked by a terrorist on the top 15 causes of death in the United States?
Let's
Oh,
see.
God,
Let's run
no.
it down.
By the way, they try to scare us. You might think it is.
number
Exactly.
15, homicide. Number 14, Parkinson's disease.
Interesting.
13, hypertension. 12, liver disease. I'm thinking from drinking.
You got a beer I can borrow?
Yeah. Number 11, suicide. That's actually surprising that many people kill themselves.
Probably all troops.
Yeah.
A huge
Could be.
majority of it
Could
is.
be.
Well, that's the highest leading cause of death in the military.
You're more
Recently,
likely to
right
get
now.
killed by suicide than being killed in Afghanistan
Yeah.
right now.
And it's not even the young soldiers.
Mm.
It's retired
Right.
soldiers.
PTSD lingers.
It's,
And
what's it called? Guilt. Like guilt something.
NPR did an incredible thing on that. That whole guilt thing. It's people who have been retired for a while are killing themselves. They're like, what in the hell is going on? They're having a huge, huge problem with that.
and it
Because
spreads across all different types of military too, not just Army or Marines. Air Force has a problem with it too.
Yeah.
So does the Navy.
Why don't Fox News or CNN do a story on that, huh?
Now that, correct me if I'm wrong. That has primarily to do with soldiers when they're young. They go off to war. They feed on all the shit that the media is telling them why they're there. They believe in it. They think it's a just cause, and then they come home. It's all over with. Years go by, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, this is the Gulf of Tonkin incident, and we shouldn't have been there. It was all bullshit." And then once that the truth start coming out, some of these things start coming out. They start questioning, "Why was I there? I shouldn't have been there." And then they start thinking about what did they do while they were there. You know, is that
That's exactly, and I can totally relate to that.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
all right?
I think you just hit the nail right on the damn head. Seriously.
How do you help that? You can't help that. Once that's happened, you can't take away that injury. You know, you can't take away that guilt. That shit happened. You know, if I thought that I was protecting freedom,
Well,
I can't help but laugh when I say that. But if I think I'm protecting freedom and I'm overseas and I'm in the thick of shit and bullets are flying and at the end of the engagement I walk through the bodies and there's fucking kids.
Right.
I think the best thing a veteran can do in a situation like that is watch the free will lecture by Sam Harris and then just realize they had no control over any of that shit.
There you go.
I'm being a little bit sarcastic,
Just really try to suck in.
Oh, it wasn't my fault. I didn't have free will.
Really pray that Sam Harris is right.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
Take comfort knowing you had no choice.
But I mean, you've talked in the past, Rock, about having been in bad situations and that you're the personality. You said your personality is kind of like you can let things go and things don't really bother you too bad. But do you really feel that's the main reason why you're able to deal with some of the stuff that you had to deal with?
What the my perspective on free will, or
No, the war being over there, seeing terrible things happening. You said that you felt like you had some bad dreams and things when you first came back, but after a while you just kind of let it go. You're able to move past it some, and you said that was mostly due to your personality.
Yeah, I think so. And having perspective too, and knowing that I'm not the same person that I was when I was 22, 23 years old. I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot. And I just kind of feel like, yeah, there's some guilt that lingers. But if you hang on to guilt, you're going to let your life pass you by.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I think it's just having whatever perspective you have and keep on going. And some people probably experience some or committed some very serious things that would linger with them guilt-wise for a very long time. You know, I personally didn't commit anything,
Right.
you know, with my own hands that I am too ashamed of, to be honest.
Gotcha.
So the people that did, I could totally see how it would be hard to let go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can imagine
but
that.
you can't. There's nothing you can do now. You know?
Right.
Yeah, you
And
must really feel stuck. Jesus, I would be. Imagine that you even accidentally, which obviously happened, killed children, and then you have to see them afterwards. I honestly am not sure how I could live myself.
I mean, people would kill children and then laugh about it over there. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about, where when you come back home and you develop the alternative perspective that you have that lingering guilt for, is those situations.
But you
know,
both have spoken
I'll tell
about
you
the
what,
idea of you are in the situation you're in, and it changes the way you think and it changes the way you function. Can you step back from that, like you said, and say that was a different person in a horrible situation who's now grown and changed, and I can let that guy go? Is it just hard to let go of that?
You know what? I think people go through that naturally. You don't even have to be in the military. When I think of who I was in high school, it's like, damn, it seems like fucking forever ago, and I don't think I could ever relate with that kid. It just seems like a completely different person. I don't think I could relate at all now with the person I was when I was in the military. I think as you get older, those stages of maturity just become like what you're assuming happens with military people who go over and are in an engagement and they come home and they're like, okay, I got to separate myself. That was a completely different person. But what we're talking about, I think, leads into you have so much guilt. You don't want, a lot of people can't face that guilt.
Right.
A lot of people will stay angry. And a lot of people, when you go up to them and you go, hey, you want to talk about 9/11? Fuck off.
Right.
You know, they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk. They don't want to hear anything because they don't even want to scratch the surface of
that wound.
Dude, if it's not totally moral why we were there, I'm going to be fucking wrecked. I don't want to deal with it. I'm taking so many meds right now. You know what I mean?
Well, that could be why people's stances are so hardcore too. I'm not even going to breach the subject. I'm not even going to question it in one iota.
Me personally, I'm surprised by the amount of people that have Rock's perspective. I'm very surprised.
That's good to hear, because I think maybe the media is just focusing on people who are really struggling, and that's why I think there's more of it. But I've only known one person in it.
Well, there are a shitload out there. I mean, like Junior was saying, suicide rate for the military is fucking through the roof. If we can Google it real quick, I think it's like multiple people a day, veterans, active duty, like in the 20s.
Yeah, it's per day. That's a huge number.
I mean, it's a very significant thing. And, if anything, the media is not shining a bright enough light on that topic, in my opinion.
Well, I mean,
I'll put another plug in for NPR, because they talk about it all the time.
Do they?
Yeah, they really do.
Sweet.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, if you focus too much on that, I think it takes away a lot of the shine and the sheen to war that they really profit off of, I think.
Oh, sure. Definitely. That's why you got to go to alternative media.
One every 18 hours is what I have.
I have 18 a day.
18 a day. Who's got the most
Those
recent
are
link?
really varying
extremely.
examples
That's
there.
Pretty. Why suicide rate among veterans may be more than 22 a day? That was
the 22 was the number.
That was on
That was
CNN.
what I had, yeah.
That was from CNN.
And CNN would be what I'd trust.
Every day, 22
I don't
veterans
know.
take their own
I
lives.
don't know about that.
Seen Jon Stewart mock CNN lately? Jesus, he's almost now. I wouldn't say that he still hates Fox News, but he is getting closer and closer all the time to having the same level of hatred with CNN that he does with Fox. I mean, he just brings up them, like when those bombings happened in Boston. I mean, he just played clip, and wasn't. You know what's funny is that he wasn't just mocking them. He was showing clip after clip after clip. Oh, there's a car coming speeding down the street that has its lights on. Wonder where they're going. Wonder what they're doing. I wonder if something bad's going down. Oh, must not be anything. They just turned the lights off and drove by. And then we have a source, but we know that some of these sources aren't credible. But this is what we have so far. And then, of course, Jon Stewart is like, then don't say anything. If you think it's not credible, then don't
it's the whole
talk
fact that
about
we have
it.
24-hour news. You got to fill that space with something. And if you're not going to pay people to actually go somewhere and report on a situation, then you're going to go off gut feelings, and then you got to be like, oh, I got to make some news.
And, well, like that Texas, I remember him railing on Texas, or that Texas incident with that big fertilizer plant that blew up. Right away, CNN was like, "Is a possible terrorist attack?" Whatever, and just railing off like about why it could be a possible terrorist attack, and then it turned out to be just a fire. But that really like it freaked me out. Yeah,
because what happened first was those freaking YouTube videos.
Oh my god, that scared the crap out of me.
That YouTube video of that thing going off is fucking mind-boggling.
Well, I was watching on my phone, and that's a small screen, and it made me jump seeing it go like, oh, it's just like a fire off in the distance. Also, it's just there, and it's
boom. And then that poor little kid in the background going, "Dad, I can't hear. Drive, Daddy.
I can't hear.
I can't hear. Go. Can you go? Just go, Dad. Just go." And it's like, oh, poor kid's probably scared to death. Just sitting by the park.
And you can't really blame the dad either, because I was like, oh, he's so far away. It's going to be like an explosion on the distance, and it just, wham, hits him.
Well, how much bigger?
Crazy.
I mean, because the bombing in Oklahoma City, I'm really glad this has turned down a really dark, horrible.
Yeah, can we talk about porn or something?
Something else. Yeah. Let me just say that I think the Oklahoma City bombing was a Ryder truck full of that stuff, and that blew up the front of a building, and that was an entire plant. So we probably shouldn't be too surprised.
Oh yeah, that video scared the crap out of us.
God, that's crazy.
Yeah, it just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So porn.
You know what?
One of
the things that I wanted to talk to Jared about that had to do obviously with MMA and fighting, but would have led into some more genetic type things. I've been in 2 boxing smokers at the 82nd, right? The first time I did really great because the people I fought were terrible, really terrible. And the second one, I thought I had a couple of people that I fought. The first guy just wailed on my face, but I still ended up winning. But I was like, hey, no broken nose. I must be structured for getting my face pounded, right? I'm all right. I'm good. I go into my last fight, and the guy who was a really good fighter, and I'm a dumbass, and he fakes me like 3 times, and I bob at the exact same spot every time. I move to the exact same spot every time. So he fakes me again, and boom, knocks me the fuck out.
Oh, geez.
So,
I should have done that.
Yeah, my question was going to be, one, how do you train? I mean, I think some people are genetically gifted to be able to take punishment like that, like we were talking about.
Indeed.
High pain tolerance.
With the latest UFC fights.
Wow.
Those people taking those beatings over and over again. But is there a point to where your training takes over? You get pounded, all of a sudden you got tunnel vision, just pinpricks. You don't really know what's going on around you. But you watch these professionals and they stay really, really
focused.
Yeah, just really focused. They don't look like they're losing their shit out there. They just they seem unfazed.
Their training instinct seems to just kind of take over.
Well, they're talking on Joe Rogan about there's a guy who was a fighter.
We need to stop saying his name. No more Joe Rogan comments.
We have a man crush on him.
We do.
Oh, okay.
So
me too. It's okay.
Let's start referring to him as the who we will not.
The J.
The who will not be spoken of again.
But they're talking about a fighter on there. And he said that he was in one of his first fights, and he was just getting pounded on, right? And he could barely see. His nose was broken. His eyes were. And he said that it was just his like that muscle memory you build after training for so many hours every day in the gym. Your body just takes over. And he said he felt like he wasn't even there. That his body had just taken over, and that it was just doing it for by itself, and he wasn't even fighting.
That's some serious drive.
And then you take that into consideration, and then you look at some of the other UFC champions and the people that have been around forever, or the really high level fighters that when I watched them, I'm like, oh, Rampage Jackson, Chuck Liddell. These guys look like they could never get beaten. They look like they're never going to get knocked out. And it's like, click, knocked out. Right. And then after that knockout, like Forrest Griffin.
Yeah, the guy who got knocked out by Silva with a jab.
Yes.
Backwards leading jab.
Forrest Griffin was the guy who made the UFC because of him, and they did the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, he was the first winner of that, wasn't he?
Right.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. But to see somebody like Forrest Griffin take a beating like crazy that first fight where people were like, "Hey, you got to see this fight. It's unbelievable. Check it out." And now he can't take a jab.
That's how it goes. Yeah. I mean, I have a buddy who fights locally, and he had an all-out war, 5-round war for a local promotion for a championship. And he took so many knockout shots, but never got phased, never buckled, never went down. But I tell you what, his next 2 fights, he got knocked out in the first round, because I think that all that damage during that 5-round war just took a toll on him. I mean, the body can only take so much. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like redlining. They say that happens, CrossFit all the time, that if you don't pace yourself right, that say you have to do 100 box jumps and 100 burpees, that if you don't break it up, if you just do 100 burpees, I got to get them done, and you just do them like crazy, you will smoke yourself and you cannot mentally continue to do them. Same thing with anything else. You just keep doing it and you don't stop about how can I strategically go about doing this. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're like, I'm not fucking moving my legs to do another thing.
Well,
you're done.
This wasn't a matter of strategy, though. Just a matter of he was in a fight where with a guy where their matchup was so complementary to each other that they just beat the shit out of each other. And what do you do when you're in there? You can't just say, okay, let's not do this. I have to have a better strategy and not get my ass kicked and not kick your ass too here at the same time. So, but basically the damage that he took ensured that he won't be able to take many good shots in the future. Because now he gets knocked out almost immediately when they barely touch his jaw, and he took multiple knockout blows to the face during that 5-round war. That totally changed his career,
Now, what I see in the future happening easily is scientists, doctors. If the UFC were to, if it continues to grow and become so enormously popular, I can see scientists looking into traumatic brain injury. What is happening every time a boxer gets hit in the face? Why is it that he can take, only X amount of punches before he has a glass jaw, basically? And once they figure that out, and they're like, "Oh, we can fix that little stem cell," and you have genetically changed the athlete,
boom,
to where
the next level.
They never have. You have athletes that will never develop that glass jaw. You're gonna have the Iceman Chuck Liddell be able to take as many fucking knockout blows to the chin as possible.
Well, then you'd have
phase them.
The NFL would be completely changed, because they just settled this almost $800 million thing for all the players who have brain damage. But even the prosecutor for the players who help put the deal together, because people are like, the NFL makes like $5 billion a year. So what's $700,000 to them, right? Prosecutor for the players said, we had to do this because we had guys who had been in for 5 years playing the NFL that were having these serious brain disorder stuff. Well, it's 5 years in the NFL, so we're not counting Pop Warner, which is what I played when I was a kid in California, junior high, high school, college, and then when you go to the NFL. So you've taken a lifetime of shots to the head up until you're in the big time. And so the guy was like, I thought we did the best deal we could because it's not just all the NFL. Yes, they can do more things, and yes, they need to be more aware and compensate their players. But we're talking about people who've had a lifetime of head trauma.
I think they get paid pretty well.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
And they have healthcare.
But at what point is it going to be like the tobacco lawsuits? At what point they're like, "Hey, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the tobacco companies got fucking raped in a lawsuit a few years ago. So if you're still smoking, you're a fucking dumbass. And if you develop lung cancer, that ship has sailed, motherfucker. You're not getting any more money from us."
Yeah.
Everyone knows it gives you cancer.
I don't think that you can. I think that there's a limitation on that.
Limitation on what?
On if you're still smoking, and you can't keep on suing the.
No. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
because they've had their day in court.
You should know better,
right?
And it's been it's so popular, and everyone knows it. And like football players, and like UFC guys or MMA guys taking so many hits, eventually it's gonna be like, we all know this.
It's like they didn't know that before. Like they're playing football, a game where they just go at it with each other on every single play. Oh, I didn't know it was dangerous.
Two moving bodies that collide.
Right.
Well, and I think that
so at some point, I don't have any sympathy.
Oh, me too. And then it goes back to the whole smoking thing. If you're still smoking, and it's bad, then it's on you. And it goes to that whole idea of drugs being legalized anyways. So if you're going to do heroin, okay, you can do heroin. Don't call an ambulance when you OD. Don't ask for free health care when you have to get into the hospital and detox and they save your life and they get your heart beating again and all that stuff. Don't ask us for a dime because you chose to do those things to yourself.
And you know what? I eat fast food. I eat it like a motherfucker. I eat it all the time. And if I have a heart attack because of it, I'm not going to be suing them. I know this ahead of time. I know that
personal
it's
responsibility.
It's
totally.
personal responsibility. I understand if it's an awakening. You know, if it's something that just came to light. Oh, shit. I don't know if you know this, but there's a chemical that makes you crave it nightly. And we just found this out. Oh, shit. I didn't know that about whatever. Kentucky Fried, whatever.
Well, I think it's going to get to the point where information comes out so fast that you're just going to know right away when a new product comes out, all the, the bad shit
they
about
promote it like crazy. But that goes back to what you were saying earlier, Matt, or I was going to go off what you said, is that they say that these corporations have scientific groups that are part of their corporation that give millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to, and they now have chemically found out the exact amount of sugar, fat, and salt to put on just about everything so that you are no longer in control of yourself to do anything about it. You have to. You're taking a bite. They say you're taking a bite of one thing and you're already thinking about taking the next bite before you even fully chewed the bite in front of you because they've done clinical tests with human beings over and over and over again to know
but
this
that's a
stuff.
You're
cigarette
making me
thing,
feel
though.
like I have no free will.
That's
You
a
don't.
cigarette thing, though. I mean, they knew and they made it. They put nicotine in cigarettes so that they would be addicted to it. So, I mean, I don't see how that's different than if Hardee's puts the right amount of salt and the right amount of sugar and the right amount of fat in there. How's that different than actually physically addicting someone?
Well, I guess
to
is
nicotine?
consuming food is a requirement to live.
What's
But
the
not that
difference
food.
between doing that and being like, hey, I'm a good cook. I'm going to make this appealing to you.
Yeah, good for them if they did the science and figured out how to make people crave their products, I mean, we all have a choice.
Well, that's capitalism.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It sounds like you don't have a choice.
Well,
Well,
I
you
don't
have
want to
to
go back to, I don't want to hit Sam Harris every 10 seconds.
I personally think that I could go eat some fast food and then not crave it tomorrow.
Yeah,
just,
I think you're probably right.
I mean, there's probably some truth to that study and the science they put into it, but I don't think it's pervasive for every single person out there. It's probably just the optimal amount of addiction is this balance of nutrients
well,
or
there's
whatever.
there's some
or
people that
flavoring or whatever.
it takes years and years and years for them to kick cigarettes, right? Even if they've only smoked it for a little while. Well, there's that story of my grandpa that he saw that they were bad for you on the news and put the pack on top of the fridge and never touched them ever again. I think it's really about the person who it is, who they're a personality, whether they have addictive personality or.
Yeah, I mean, you have some
Yeah.
people who I hate personally who hate sugar.
Sure.
And they don't ever have to have a candy bar. I'm like, oh,
God, these bastards.
I need 3 of those. I need 3 of those. And
Not me,
4
I'm not one of
naked
them.
ATs.
I have a salt tooth. I have a sweet tooth.
I have a mega fucking sweet tooth. I can't stand it. My brother's like that. He's like, oh, my bad thing is alcohol and cheese. And I'm like, awesome, because mine's alcohol and cheese and fucking sugar. So I got 3. Thanks for doubling down.
And
he-
bread and Panera.
What's weird though is that I wonder if it's just your brain because I'm almost at a solid week of almost no carbs except for I made garlic bread the other night for spaghetti. You gotta have garlic bread with my spaghetti.
Oh God!
And so one of Junior's last meals that he requested.
Mm.
But other than that, I haven't had any bread at all, right? And so the one thing I've been craving is not bread. And it's not like a nice bowl of brown rice. It's like a Snickers bar or
Thank God Halloween's coming around
it's just
the corner.
like, holy cow. I just am craving like just pure, horrible, simple sugars. Like give me a box of sweet tarts. Just kill it.
Does that happen when you get older? I wonder.
What, the sugar?
Sugar
No,
thing?
just food cravings in general. Does it get worse as you get older? Because I really don't. I mean, I'll be
I'm
like, oh, I want some
I think when things
Pancheros.
start falling off on a man, I think you start craving some of the simple pleasures in life. And some of those simple pleasures are jerking off and sugar. That's the
I'm
two
restricting, which is I think why it's worse.
Okay,
Well,
I was just
that's
thinking
what I
that I don't like I like the taste of certain stuff, but I don't need it. Like I could go without.
Well, see, or you give me a bag of M&Ms, I'm probably okay. But you go like Christmas to somebody's house and you say, "Here's a bowl of M&Ms." I'll just say, "Awesome, thanks." I'll go sit on the couch with it. 2 at a time. 2 at a time. I'll just kill it.
Yeah, you can have my beer.
You're a hell of a guy.
Can I have one? Can I have one of
No,
your
God
beers?
bless everybody.
Except for Junior.
You need me to go upstairs?
No, I'll get it in a little bit.
So 1,
So
2, 3.
Oh, just so it all happens. All
Because you'll edit this out anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Not when we're talking. I can't edit it out when we're talking.
So let's pause.
Pause for station identification.
But yeah, I wonder if like some of these things like gene therapy and Monsanto and genetic manipulation and superhumans. And do you think that's right around the corner? I mean, we're really
It has to be.
I do.
It's the next. It's the next step. Like what really appeals. I know a lot of those things are cool, and I like most of them. What I really get intrigued by is the nanotechnology. When they say like, you have something wrong with one of your organs. Okay, we're just going to dump this little vial and
those little spider things.
You're going to drop a pill in your mouth, and it's full of 1 million microbes that can cellularly
That is pretty cool.
or cellularly go in and reconstruct cells in your heart because they're not working right, or go in and clean out your valves because those little guys with a little chip axe and a little shovel, and they're just
they're in their little
double overtime
suits,
little yellow hat with a light on it. Boy, this guy ate a lot of meat. I just think that kind of stuff is amazing when it comes to like healing. I know this stuff that changing people so that they can heal themselves. I think the idea of, that's where it gets a little creepy about how long could you live for and how long would you want to live for? See, I think the idea, even at a 40-year-old, sorry, Gina, I keep cutting you off, is very appealing. The idea, to me, I always told my kids that I'm going to live a good solid 100 years. I just want to be 100 years so I can see what's changed from when I became consciously aware of the world around me, 5, 6, 7 years old, until I die. So a nice, almost positive 100-year stretch, so I can see the changes that have taken place. But now they're talking about when we're at
20 years. I mean, look how much has changed in 20 years.
Right.
50 years.
But I guess part of it was being a huge fan of history. You can see these just huge leaps, Industrial Revolution and some of these big things that took place. And I just think the idea of, even in our modern times, because things happen so quickly, that's why I still love the movie Blade Runner. Jesus. To this day, I love that movie because I still think those kind of things are relative now. You know what I mean?
Like the sex doll.
I hadn't thought about that.
That was a big part of fucking Blade. Am I wrong?
I've never seen it.
Did I focus on the wrong part of the movie?
Well, she was running through the streets naked. I remember
it was
that
Daryl
part
Hannah
when he shot her.
Oh, Daryl Hannah. Okay. Well, it's hard for me to think of her as a sex doll. She was a
sex
person.
robot.
Oh, she's a sex robot. There you go. Well, a sex doll. I think of an inflatable thing that's got red lips. I don't think of Daryl Hannah.
You're putting your penis in it, and it's hard to clean. It's a sex doll.
Oh, fuck. Can you imagine the nasty guys in the world that just don't take care of that stuff? I'm like, I guess I'll just use the doll again. Oh, it's been a week. Oh.
No, but
my wife wanted me to get one.
Maybe a little bit of a flashback.
My wife wanted me to get one.
I can't ever open that bedroom door again.
Who's canning fish in this house? Jesus. You started it.
I like the idea of living a life that is, I'm 20 years old and I stay that age. Physically, not mentally, but physically. No aches, no pains, no disease, no decay. And you live life hard, and you really enjoy it and you get the most out of it. And then you're like, you can either fucking pull my plug at 75 or 85 because I've lived 85 full fucking years. I mean, when we really start living, it's at junior's age. You're done with high school. You're at the prime of your life. You haven't really fallen into the trap of, I got to make a paycheck and I have kids, which are great. Kids are great. But once you have them, that's it. You're kind of done, adventurous wise.
Sure.
And then
some people would disagree with that. But
then you hope and pray that when you retire and you're able to get away from work again, that you're going to be healthy enough to be like, I can't wait to go to Bermuda. Yeah, my fucking hover around.
Right. Or I can't walk on.
So you really only have, if you look at our lives, how many years do you think that was like fucking quality? Great physical health. I have nothing holding me back. I can do whatever I want.
I'm going to say 25 to 55 is kind of the timeline I'm looking at.
You really think there's that many years that falls into those categories?
25 when you're super healthy. If you do a good job, you should be in relatively good shape by the time you hit your 50s. We have plenty of people that don't do that. Trust me. But I never thought that I would be in okay shape when I was hitting my mid 40s. I really didn't. I thought, I saw my dad, stuff like that. I thought, okay, so as you hit your 40s,
we need to have a talk.
You're in really good shape, Todd.
you start going downhill, and I was going to make sure. I have younger kids. Junior's, a unique situation, but I have younger kids who kind of keep me busy and keep me young, but I want to be able to run around with my grandkids. You know what I mean? I want to be able to go out because I remember playing catch with my grandpa, and he had the big comb over, would catch the wind and stick straight up in the air. God bless him. I love him to death to this
Are
day.
you going to have one of those?
No.
My kids?
My head's already shaved. You can't do anything with a comb over with this baby. But I mean, I want to be able just to run around and do stuff and not be like, oh God, sorry guys, my knees are really, like you said, you want to be able to do stuff when you get older and not worry about those things.
So yeah, cellular manipulation. I would want that. I would be a proponent of.
Oh yeah,
I'll vote for that. I'll stay alive. I'll be perfect for 75 years, and then either pull my plug or put me on a spaceship, and I'll go colonize Mars. I'll be another person.
Did you hear about how many people applied for that? 100,000 people. They said we're going to do a Mars land, 40 people on Mars. They had 120,000 people apply for the job, and they picked the top 40.
Just like Total Recall.
There you go.
Yep.
What?
Arnold Schwarzenegger, Total Recall.
Okay, well we have
take place on Mars.
We have to decide what Total Recall we're talking about.
The first one,
the older one.
Don't even mention.
I don't even know about the newer one.
The newer one is more along the lines of the book.
Douglas Quaid.
It was okay. Douglas, yeah, but I think the second one I liked because it was technically we could do more stuff advance wise for the movie screen, and it was better along with the book, which I actually enjoyed it more. But there's always something about the original.
The chick with the 3 boobs. Come on now.
Yeah, she got 3 boobs, or
she's back in the newest one.
Yeah, but
the creature,
Arnold. Come on.
The weird long 3-fingered creature that touched the thing. It just kind of made the first one seem campy, which made me even like it more.
All right.
But the second one is much more true to the books and that kind of.
But I would totally be down with that. 75. Kill me or send me away. But I'm not going to stay here and be one of those overpopulated, another person, another number to overpopulate that.
And take money from the system. And
yeah, because, this is a closed environment. No matter how big the Earth seems, it's still a tank.
It can't handle an infinite amount of people.
It would be sweet. So you hit 75. And you can live.
It's up to you.
You can say,
it's your fucking decision.
Pull my plug, or I'll take. Yeah, let me go see the universe. It's a great idea.
Send me to the next galaxy. I will survive, and I'll still look 23. I might have zero muscle when I get there, right?
Well, by then they'll have gravity.
Yeah, who knows?
You'll be running in space as fast as possibly can.
No, I like that idea. I really like the staying at one age and then having a set date. But I really do not like the idea of people, just living forever and ever and ever, at least in this kind of age in the confined space of the Earth. One reason is overpopulation, like you said, but another reason is there's some really dickish people out there that really, once they pass away, it's a good thing, like that they're gone. Especially the people at the top, the ones that, if they could live forever.
There's a lot of dicky people at the bottom.
Sure. But the top people
like
definitely
the guys
get first.
That still have killer pit bulls in their kitchen.
He should not be on the list.
I'll go ahead and walk around me. I'm just going to cover up my pit bull's eyes.
They don't even know what you're talking about. You didn't.
That's
didn't
okay.
Tell us
I can be totally ambiguous.
Yeah.
I was in a person's house I don't know, and I did a Craigslist swap, and he had to cover his fucking. This is when it's probably not the right thing to do. Maybe you should never do Craigslist again. Maybe.
But Craigslist is so great though.
It is pretty good. It's pretty good. But it's like it's like the out there black market.
Yeah, pretty much.
I love it.
You can't prove that it's not stolen. I guarantee you some of the stuff I've gotten has been stolen, but it's like
I know somebody
if he's willing to
it's
trade
trade.
that for a PS3, that's not a very even trade.
It's not a very even trade.
But he probably has absolutely no use for that at all.
You know what he said? He goes, "Yeah, I paid $500 for it, and I also paid for like $200 for something else for this trade."
But you know what?
And I didn't know how to use it, so I just used it as an iPhone charger.
He could have very easily put that thing on. He
plugged his fucking iPhone into it, didn't use the computer. He just plugged his phone into it, plugged that into the outlet, and then plugged his phone into that to charge his iPhone. That's what he did. I couldn't believe it. But then after the pit bull killing the other pit bull, I was like, well, fuck, maybe it's true. Yeah.
What were you saying?
I was just going to say, you could have very easily asked for like $300, $400 for that computer.
Probably gotten it.
And then, went out and got his PS3 and then some extra shit. But we're not talking about probably the smartest guy on the world.
And people on Craigslist are generally, from all my experiences, are pretty reasonable. If they want something, they'll trade an even amount of stuff for it.
Yeah, I do love Craigslist in the fact that you can barter. I like the fact that
there's no
it has
holds,
brought
no ties.
back the barter system. I love that.
Yeah.
Dude, I have too many fucking bills. And I have a lot of shit that I don't use anymore. What do you want?
Right.
I want that. You got that. I want it. What do I got? Okay, let's do a fucking trade.
I know a guy who who found a girl on Craigslist. And
that sounds awesome.
And it was for a party. And I was kind of the cook of the party. So I was in the kitchen cooking up chicken breasts,
cooking up the meth for the party,
chopping up chicken breasts, right, to put on the grill.
Yes,
and
Mr. White.
I look up, and this woman walks through the house just buck naked, like, "Hey, are you so and so?" I'm like, "Nope, he's outside." She's like, "Okay, thanks."
Was she hot?
Hot, but kind of rolled hard and put away wet.
You can't
at the
walk
same
through
time.
a party
So she's
naked
kind
and
of
not
okay, but everybody was outside by the pool. She had just arrived. Obviously, taking all her clothes off when she got in the front door, or knock. Hello,
she was going for shock factor just right from the beginning. I'm just gonna walk out naked,
and that's what he asked her to do. All I do when she did this is to be.
So is she
a woman that just walks
prostitute?
around naked? No, she's just there to walk around naked. That's it.
Huh. So it's not illegal.
And she wasn't having sex with anybody.
Huh. That is such a. You know what? If we want to talk, we're not. But if we wanted to talk about bullshit laws,
prostitution.
God,
oh yeah.
Okay, it drives me crazy that I can't put anything I want into my body if I'm not harming anybody else. Okay, that drives me crazy. But I can see a little bit of somebody's
argument. Crazy on
argument.
coke and shoot somebody, that's
but I could go crazy off of too many fucking Coca-Colas.
Sure, I'm just saying that's one of the arguments for it.
But that's why we have laws. If you step out of your home and you do something completely fucking stupid, goodbye.
You violate somebody else's rights.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct. The idea that you can make sex illegal. Come on. You're a consenting adult. I'm a consenting adult. You want to fuck? I got money.
Right.
If that's what you need,
just bring a camera.
It's a barter system.
It's not illegal.
You know what? I'm not giving you money. This is I'm donating some money to this dresser.
It's
over
legal
here.
to get paid for sex. You just have to film it.
Yeah.
Reproduce it.
Pornography.
And sell it. It's called pornography.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to, was it Howard Stern this last weekend?
I don't have a big enough dick for photos.
Me either. But Howard Stern had a thing on there where, what was it? Oh, fuck. Out of my head. I hate when that shit happens. He had a commercial. Sorry, Rock.
Oh, you're good.
He had a commercial, and it was specifically for women to go on a long-term date. So, say you're going to travel somewhere to like another country on a business trip, and you want some companionship, they'll go with you. You pay for it. Now, to me, the assumption is that there's going to be sex, but they promote it just as. So I wonder if they promote everything as here's somebody to hang out with. But if you two decide to make a deal between the two of you, it's between the two of you.
Sure.
And the escort service or the person that they hook you up with gets some money for getting the hooking you two up together. But the money exchange, I'm assuming that's how it happens because I don't know why you'd pick somebody else to travel with unless you're going to fuck them at some point. Yeah?
Or
am I
hot company?
You just
I don't want fucking hot company that I'm not going to be getting screwed. Why would I pay for somebody who's just with me and I can't have sex with you? Okay, well I can't pick up anybody else.
I'll say, you're on my arm. Oh, this is great. Everybody look at me. I can't fuck it, but it's right here.
I can't fuck it.
Her. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
Sorry. Too much Joe Rogan.
No, that's okay.
He who will not be spoken.
Be a man for a second. You can't fuck
be a man for a second. Shut up.
No, I'm just don't apologize. You said something. Your son called you out on it. You felt guilty, and you start backpedaling. Yeah, don't backpedal.
Yeah, I was trying to test you to see if you'd backpedal.
Just own it.
He just doesn't. He's so full of shit.
Just own it.
I am owning it.
We're not going to get into the other conversation where we're like, own it. Just own it. That was a terrible. We're not going to go there.
Oh, it was bad. We were both so drunk. It was terrible.
It was terrible.
It was one of our first. It was one of our. Oh no! It was like 9 or 10. It was like 9 or 10 podcasts.
We were
practice podcasts in,
right.
And man, even our wives walked in and were like, "What's going?
Why are you talking
why the
about
fuck
this?
are you like yelling at each
Still.
other?" Yeah,
just drop it.
Why are you
made
so
your
sweaty?
fucking
We'd
point.
stop, and we'd get off on a different subject, and then somebody would bring something up, like, "I won!" We'd just like go right at it again. It was so bad.
Okay, yeah, we're not going to do that. What were we talking about?
I love you, man. You're a good dude.
Prostitution.
Prostitution.
Well, first we were talking about genetic
laws that fucking
altering.
annoy me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
All of them. That's me. But
Well, I don't.
We should
I
keep
don't know
murder.
if all laws.
That's.
annoy me.
I think
murder.
he's going to get an anarchy tattoo on his neck. I think.
no, I have 0 tattoos and I don't plan on getting any.
I think
It's
you
a-
should
it's a beautiful
get,
temple.
just one.
V for Vendetta mask.
Favorite movie? Love that movie.
It's a great movie.
It's
Yeah.
a really cool movie. But there's so many movies. I'm kind of surprised that we haven't had a revolt in the United States since.
I'm not.
I think it goes back to what we talked about the other day about how most people's bubbles haven't been
Broken
affected yet.
Yeah.
Their day-to-day life hasn't been
Right.
totally
Because
shaken
you have
up
like
yet.
you have people like in tent cities.
In some places,
I
but
do-
overall,
When McDonald's
But I
stopped
do
serving
think we're
meals.
going that direction, though. I think that we're slowly now. Whether there's going to be a huge revolution, I don't know. But I think that people are becoming more and more aware. And I may not be as passionate or adamant about it as Rock is about certain parts of it, but I'm becoming much more aware of situations like drugs not being legalized or prostitution. That I see laws that are keeping me from doing things that I would like to do. Not that I want to go out and
anti-liberty laws.
Right.
Yeah.
And so even though I may not be as full-fledged as other people, I am recognizing that there are parts of the truth of what they're talking about. So I think that a lot of people are becoming aware of that. You know what I mean? And I think it's slowly building. Do I think it's going to be some big, explosion? No. I think we all kind of Americans seem to me to kind of roll along and pick up momentum and things change. And it's a subtle thing. We'd like it to be instantaneous. But I do think it's a subtle change that's happening already. And I think that'll grow and continue to grow until things just begin to change, like gay rights or begin to change like legal marijuana in certain
Colorado,
states.
that's a big step.
I
The
see
reason I
things
brought
changing.
that up is because I see that theme in so many movies.
Oh yeah, or apocalypse.
If we continue going on the road that we're on, we keep going down that path, our future looks like shit. And
Right.
it's such a pervasive theme in so many movies, and we are such a culture of movies, of cinema, that I'm just surprised that we're not more impacted by that stuff. That we don't see that. I mean, we are a culture that constantly watches television and movies, and to be bombarded with that theme, and then to look around at our media and going, oh yeah, the banks did kind of fuck us over. Oh wait, who are we giving a bailout to? Oh okay, but we're only limiting their bonuses to
Monsanto do?
500,000. Oh okay. I mean, they're talking about wheat. The wheat is that the book Wheat Belly.
Great one. Yeah.
How the wheat of today is not what it was 50 years ago.
Oh.
And the wheat 50 years ago probably was really good for you. And you
course.
should have eaten what we're telling you to eat now.
Right.
But because it's so changed, you're fucking sick.
And you can go back and you can still buy that wheat. They have all of them kept. You can still go to this company. I mean, they're like $15 a pound for the flour. But if you're willing to pay it instead of the $2.99 a pound at your local shop. But the thing that caught me off guard, besides, the idea of like, awesome, we'll go back to that kind of wheat. That's awesome to do that. Then I get to the point where I'm like, Jesus, to be able to have bread that I had to make myself, I got to pay $15 a pound to get it. I'd rather just not fucking eat bread.
Yeah.
I mean, I get to that point where I'm just like, forget about it.
But then
what
you have
scared
people that
me-
just forget about it. You have Monsanto who changes corn. I mean, we started with wheat.
Well,
and we did it under kind of good premise of, hey, let's make it sturdier. We just want to make it taller. Let's crossbreed it.
Monsanto,
But now we're going chemical wise, and we're adding like pesticides to fucking seeds
genes.
and-
They're changing genes.
So
Well,
I'm just
is
saying,
it
wheat was bad enough. Wheat was bad enough, and now we're finally seeing it now. The repercussions of it now, right? To where people are like, I'm glucose and not glucose.
Yeah, it's
intolerant.
glucose.
No, it's not glucose.
Lactose.
Lactose. No, it's not
that's
lactose.
not milk
But
either.
we have glucose.
No, it's
What is it?
Gluten.
Gluten. I need gluten free. I need gluten. I'm allergic to
Gluten-free.
gluten. I need to get rid of gluten because it makes me feel like shit. I mean, we're feeling those effects of that now. I mean, what's it going to be like 50 years from now? Oh yeah, back in 2013, we probably shouldn't have let Monsanto fuck with corn and peas and every.
Well,
fucking
We should have
The
passed a
whole-
law that protects them from litigation.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
The whole wheat
Yeah.
thing freaked me out because they genetically altered it so the head of the wheat, where we get the main product to make flour out of, right, or any kind of grain, not grain, but flour and wheat products, they changed it and altered it genetically so that it was huge, right, a bigger yield, which is all they wanted
Like
to
the
go
chickens for McDonald's.
right?
Bigger
And so
boobs.
now, all of a sudden, they started growing this wheat, right? The wheat was all bending over and breaking because they genetically altered the yield, but didn't strengthen the stem. And then they had to go back in and strengthen the stem and make it stiffer and stronger so the wheat stayed up high so they could actually harvest it. So they had to just go back and keep on. It's almost like you tell a lie and then you have to tell another lie to cover up that lie. You do the next thing. It's almost the same thing.
That outbreak happened with that kind of wheat that didn't work. And all of a sudden, instead of having, just this, Monsanto messing up their wheat, all of a sudden everyone's wheat is no longer usable because of this, outbreak.
But how about the idea that good for them? They knew how to manipulate the system. They knew how to genetically alter stuff. They have the scientists. It kind of goes along with the thing I was saying, food companies, found the perfect amount of certain ingredients to make it work. Well, they spend the money on it. Good for them. They did the product. So what's the difference between them and Monsanto's genetically alter something?
Well, Monsanto has really gotten themselves embedded within government, gotten people within the FDA to protect them from any kind of litigation. They got people in the legislation. They got the president in their back pocket. They basically, Monsanto, if any company, if any corporation has political clout and influence in Washington to bend the rules in their favor, it is Monsanto. They're the most powerful corporation in this country, and they use government to get done what they want to get done. If we had a free market, then we would have people bringing up lawsuits against them. We would have a lot more free flow of information and things like that. But since we don't have that, government goes ahead and protects them from all that stuff.
Wait, I mean, don't you think that's the same thing for corporations, like food corporations? I mean, it's all kind of the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think when it comes to food is when because I think the way our economy and our government was set up a long time ago, we didn't have that ability to manipulate how food was made or how it was grown or genetically alter it, right? And now that we have that power, we're putting that power in the hands of these people who care about nothing but profit, and they'll do whatever they can to get that profit, right? If we put those,
but profit's a good thing in a free market system, right?
Well, not when profit overruns your humanity.
I'm trying to.
Junior's gonna.
I'm trying to.
He's gonna go kill a football on you.
I'm trying to pull Rock into the situation because I know his feelings about it. So I want to see how it kind of fits in with the way he's thinking. Because to be very honest, I have learned a lot from him, and I appreciate his points of view and his understanding of things. And so, Junior is saying a lot of things that I kind of agree with and understand that perspective of it.
Contradict what Rock is saying.
In the market,
part of it does.
The market is already starting to overcome a lot of what Monsanto is doing. You have iPad apps that are popping up where you can scan anything at the supermarket and it'll tell you it's genetically modified. There's all kinds of things coming up like that. Whole Foods is now taking it upon themselves to start labeling all their products, whether it's genetically modified or not. So if there's a demand, if the people demand something, somebody's going to supply that demand in a free market, because there's an incentive to make profit, and profit is good because of that. It's going to go towards profits are going to go towards the demands of the people within any given economy.
So, Monsanto stifles that because they make sure that we don't have genetically altered labeled food in our stores. So we don't have a choice, so that the free market can work really like it should be, so that I can have a choice.
Well, they make it more difficult.
And I totally agree with them.
You're not going to want a big sign, big neon sign saying, "Well,
yeah, of course
this is
not.
the fuck with food." I
would agree with Rock completely about that.
No, I'm saying if you're Monsanto, you're not going to want
sure.
that.
Oh, absolutely. I understand what you're saying.
I agree with Rock about that idea completely, that in a free market society, profits go to the people who are making the stuff that has the most demand, and that is the people that buy the stuff and they make the demand, right? But I always have thought, and this is how I was taught, was that this is the economy and then the government. And the government is supposed to they're supposed to offset one another, right? So the government has to make laws that coincide with the demand of the people, right? And then the economy manipulates the government in a way that the government has to make money, right? But
that's the way you've been taught that it should be?
Yeah, that's the way I've been taught, but that should be. But see, Monsanto is now a part of both of those. It controls both of those things. So there is no, bar or something trying to restrict it. It's just a free.
They get away with whatever they want. And they're not the only company that has the government in their back pocket.
Well, Halliburton.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of them. There's a ton of them, not just food companies. But the best thing the government can do in terms of the economy, in my opinion, and this is just something I came up with willy-nilly, it's just totally stay
out of
away. There should be a separation from economy and government. There should be absolutely no intervention in the economy.
But see,
there's no way. Banks fail.
They fail.
Right.
And farmers don't need subsidies.
But see that
you don't get handouts, whether it's to a corporation
Man,
or to
you
a
just
farmer.
pissed off the Midwest.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, you're right.
See, that wouldn't work.
I do not necessarily believe that, but I think
you do believe that farmers should not get subsidies?
I'm not sure because I do not know enough about it.
Here's the deal.
To be honest,
you're a farmer, and Mother Nature dictates how it's all gonna come out. You can't rig the game.
Yeah, for yourself.
Farmers have rigged the game with farm subsidies.
Well, since the
you
Dust Bowl.
can't rig the game. You're either a farmer because you like to make shit grow, and you're gonna do it as responsibly as you can. And there's huge fucking farms out there.
Well, I think it goes back to the idea that we have mostly corporation farms now. I know the state of Iowa has the most independent farmers in the Midwest of all the farming states. Iowa has the most small hometown farms still working. But most farming organizations now are run by humongous corporations who have a corner on the market about how they run their businesses.
And they have government in their back pocket to help curb the rules in their favor and push out all those little farmers.
Sure.
You know,
But see, I honestly do not think you can have economy without government regulation, because there are some things that would produce massive profits but are completely terrible for a certain group of people, such
Like
as
what?
slavery. Slavery was made illegalized by the government.
slavery was endorsed by the government.
Yeah, and
Right.
but until the North decided to
Dude,
legalize
slavery
it.
was endorsed by the Bible.
Right.
Sure, and there was
It
slavery
still
in
is
the Bible,
endorsed
yeah.
by the Bible.
Yeah,
The Bible hasn't changed.
Nobody edited that out.
The Bible hasn't changed, but we've changed.
But
Right.
see,
So-
the South, the economy of the South prospered during the slavery, the era of slavery, because they had all this free workers that had no say. They weren't people. They weren't creating demand and manipulating the economy with their demand. They didn't have a say. So you could have these companies that can just do whatever they want with a certain group of people, and then the government can't say anything about it because you have an independent
Well,
economy.
there's another point of view on that, because during that same exact period of time, 1840s to 1880s,
Mhm.
you have about 30 to 40 different industrialized countries, so to speak, that did away with slavery naturally without a civil war. And they did away with it because morals were changing, and also because they were realizing that as technology progressed and as labor progressed, that it was actually better to hire people because you got more productive work than you did from a slave. It cost a lot of money to feed a slave, to clothe a slave, to house a slave. Economically, it was becoming more profitable to actually hire people who were less, who cost you less money and were more productive.
And you didn't have to house. You didn't have to
Right.
feed.
Because
right.
you were paying them. That makes sense.
Yeah, it was naturally kind of fading itself out as technology progressed because of economic issues and also because of moral issues. People's ethics were starting to evolve, in a good way. So
That's a good point.
So let me ask you this: from my education, normal public school education, I always look at Abraham Lincoln. Oh, thank God for you! You freed the slaves. Do you all have the same perspective? He did it because he felt morally justified to free the
It's a
slaves?
proven fact that he
Or-
did not.
he did not free the slaves.
He didn't free the
The
slaves.
Emancipation Proclamation did nothing to free the slaves.
He was a well-known.
I'm glad I said that.
Well,
This
and
sparks
look
a
at you're
lot
looking
of-
you're talking to a libertarian and
He's a white
and
supremacist.
you're talking to a libertarian and a liberal, and is a known fact that his plan was to ship them all home,
Shipped them all back to Haiti.
ship them all back to where ship them all back somewhere else other than here, and that's how he was going to solve the problem.
After the Civil War, he had some African American leaders come to the White House, and he tried to convince them to take all their people, all the
Back to
black
Africa.
people back to Haiti or back to Africa, and get them out of this country. If you Google right now Lincoln racist quotes, you'll come up with some of the most vile things. He's talking about how, like, I render my race supreme to the black man. I don't think we should ever be on par socially with black people. I mean, the guy was one of the most white supremacist presidents we've ever had in history. But since he was president during a war between the states, the most important war that dictates where our history is going to
Yeah,
go,
we pushed him up.
who
on
won the
pedestal.
war? It was the North won the war. So they got to choose what version of history gets passed down. So they deified this man, and all the bad things. And we never hear about that stuff in school.
Yeah.
They deified this guy after the war was won, put him on a pedestal. He's got the biggest monument. He's on the penny. He's on the $5 bill.
I do think that
Yeah.
I
How do you? I know, but how do you sell it How would you teach that? How would you honestly teach it? I mean, who profited from the war? Why do you have the war?
Like I've said in the past, you teach that people who helped found this country or made huge impacts in the history of this country were human beings.
Yeah.
And so you talk about Jefferson and his slaves. You talk about George Washington and all the horrible mistakes that he made.
You have to,
which makes me think that you need to make sure you take perspective of every president as the human being that they are, that the ability to be manipulated by people, the ability to be bought by people. Everybody has flaws when they go in, that people have flaws, period. When they go into office, it doesn't exempt them from making shitty, horrible decisions. It doesn't exempt them from making decisions that impede on us or things that we don't like. But that's, hopefully why we have the rule of law to be able to say somebody needs to be out of the office that we don't care for, not in 4 years, but when we deem it, like you said in Egypt. But that's what I told you when I started getting upset and frustrated with Barack Obama as a person who voted for him twice. It made me have empathy for George W. Bush. And I fucking hated that guy. I still don't care for him. I still think he's a war criminal. But I also think Obama's a war criminal now for freaking droning people.
Yeah.
So, it gives you perspective to say these are human beings who are going to do what benefits them or what benefits who they think is going to help them or their families or what gives them people perspective. You have to have an idea of, we put them on a pedestal. I think that you and I have talked about Obama. The reason why he could go down as one of the worst is because
we put
him on such a pedestal. He had even further to fall than anybody else. We knew George W. Bush was going to be a bad president because he's a fucking dumbass.
Well,
literally a dumbass. Literally had a C- grade point average in college. Didn't try,
but he did graduate from Yale.
But didn't want to try because his father his dad got him into Yale.
I thought, yeah.
Can I read a Lincoln quote?
I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't.
So my point is that so Bush didn't have far to fall.
Okay.
Obama had a long ways to fall,
right.
And that's why I think. Go ahead, Rob.
I got a good one after you.
Okay, I just want to read this quote from Abraham Lincoln, and I believe this was during one of the Douglas debates. It says, "I have no purpose to introduce political and social equality between white and black races. There is a physical difference between the two, which in my judgment, which will probably forbid them from ever living together upon the footing of perfect equality. And inasmuch as it becomes a necessity that there must be a difference, I, as well as Judge Douglas, the person who he is debating with, am in favor of the race to which I belong having the superior position." That's from the man who supposedly was benevolent and freed the slaves.
So listen, could he have changed? This is when he was debating Douglas before he became president of the United States. Could he have all of a sudden had an epiphany and said, like we have had in our lives, what? Like you said with the gay guys, the gay guy you saw and thought was horrible and you're thinking differently now. Could he say, you know what? That kid, that guy was out of his mind. What was I thinking?
Sure, but then why would he invite people to his office in the White House and try to get them to go back to Africa shortly before he died?
Right, or maybe trying to solve a problem.
Well, a word that he said.
I don't know. I have no idea.
A word he said inside of that quote was, "There's a difference between our races," and you have to know also at that
Physical
time.
difference.
Yeah, at that time they had a pseudoscience, and I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was the study of the difference between the brain of colored people and the brain of white people, and how there was these physical differences between the two. And how there were certain dimples that were bigger in a African American skull than a white person's skull, and how it made them more docile or more apt to be slaves. So that was the time that he was living in too, and that was considered a science. That was considered rock star, evidence.
But my point is, we're taught in school that this man was flawless, and he rose above all the contemporary ideas of the day, and it was just some kind of thing.
And I'm going to go against all my peers,
right?
And I'm going to wage war against my own country. I will go forth and create a civil war because I want to do the moral right thing.
I don't have.
That's what fucking drives me crazy. Why isn't there an outcry when movies come out about Abraham Lincoln?
Because he's deified.
I know he's deified, but I mean, people who are educated. It's not just you two or you three.
No, but maybe it has to go with the whole idea of what he's saying. Now, Lincoln, Steven Spielberg's Lincoln, didn't portray any of the bad things, but neither did Spike Lee's Malcolm X. He was a hardcore drug dealer. He was not a very good person, and he changed. And that's one thing I had a problem because Malcolm X's autobiography is one of my favorite books because it's a true progression of a man from what he lived, fulfilling society's idea of what he was by living his life a certain way and exemplifying what it is to be your own person and change yourself. Could it so? And I didn't think Spike Lee did a very good job of that because he didn't want to tarnish the idea of Malcolm X's rise to what he became. I think that Steven Spielberg did a disservice to Lincoln because you have to show the bad parts. I think I've told you in the past that I said, you know, if I knew that Jesus Christ was a Dan Brown character who had a wife, had children, was a human being at one point, I could probably see myself following that idea of that person because morally he's a pretty astounding individual. The demagoguery and the religious dogma that's involved bothers me a lot. But if I knew he was just a dude who lived his life in a really incredible way, I could follow that. I could be in love with the Lincolns, the Malcolm X's, all these people, if I'm presented an idea of who they are as people. That's an astounding thing to say. Here's an honest, unvarnished truth to something.
Well, yeah, he suspended the Constitution for most of his presidency.
Exactly.
He did all kinds of terrible things. And I just want to make a plug real quick because if you're interested in this topic, there's a book that I read that I gained a lot of knowledge from is called The Real Lincoln by Thomas J. DiLorenzo. That book is very, very good at detailing some of the truths about that whole time period that you might not have been taught in school.
I'm just assuming this is just a guess. You read that book, and then you read the Lincoln book by Bill O'Reilly, and you might have fucking whiplash.
I would probably agree with that.
And I would say, and I
haven't read either one.
And I would also preface, as much as I would say I don't believe wholly in Steven Spielberg's version of Lincoln, I think you need to be careful about what you're reading and where did this guy get all his information from.
It is up to you in that sense that you need to make sure. You've got to make sure. I'm not going to, even though I love NPR, trust me, I'm a huge NPR. I still go to RT. I still go to lots of other places to make sure I'm going to get the right information or that the information that's coming to me is somewhat consistent.
You got to cross-reference, right?
You got to make sure. I mean, that's why if I read a book like, oh my God, who's the guy? Is it McCullen who writes all those books about presidents? He's a nonfiction writer, and he writes all kinds of books about presidents. The last third of the book is every single thing that he read to apply to the book that he's writing. His most famous book is about John Adams. But the whole back of it is just chock full of where he went to find that information. He read this document. He read that document, which I think is great and adds validity to a book. But then he had to stop and go, so the guy who wrote the article that back in the 18 whatever, what was his perspective? Why are you quoting him and using him? Did it fit what you were thinking? So, I mean, the hard part is that I think the idea of going back to free will, you really have to look into what it is that you're willing to believe. It's like Ron Paul. A majority of the things he says, I really enjoy and can follow along. But his comment about gay marriage after that ruling came out fucking pissed me off.
What was his comment?
God, I hope you remember it because if anybody can change your mind, it's Rob.
Because I can tell you what his perspective on gay marriage is.
What's his perspective?
Government should not be involved
in marriage at all. It should not sanction. It should not license. It should not.
It should not be involved in any way, shape, or form of any type of marriage.
It shouldn't
whether
license,
straight or gay.
Well, isn't marriage a government?
It shouldn't
isn't
license
that a government contract though? Like, why would we have marriage at all?
It is because government has taken that role. But marriage is a personal relationship between two people. And his argument is government should not be in the business of licensing and regulating personal relationships between people. That should be something done in a church if you so desire, or just between each other, with word of mouth.
I don't understand why we don't just write the people into our will and make it that. Because the way it works now is if you get married and you get divorced, they get a certain amount of your stuff, right? But why wouldn't you just write a will? So, because that's what people usually do is, if I die, I want my significant other to get my stuff, right? When I pass away, that's why a lot of people like to get married. But
yeah, that's why I got married.
But I mean, like that's why they take that legal step to get married. That's why I heard about the gay marriage as well, is that a lot of people were saying that people just didn't get their money after they died because they weren't married.
Well, I mean, that's, I think, I think it started out, and I'm not gay, and I wasn't there when it started out. But I think my hypothesis is that it started out because people got fed up from feeling like they were second class. And the obvious,
They had to hide who they are.
to hide who, and the obvious thing, the thing that had the most teeth when they made the argument was, I can't be in the hospital room when my loved one is dying. I don't have those same legal rights. And when the legal rights argument came out, it just started like a bonfire.
Yeah.
And it started to imply so many other things. Not only did it apply to the hospital rights, legal rights that way, but it also had to deal with what happens to the property that I've been sharing with my lover for X amount of years. And then I think again, it morphed from that to just straight out outrage. How dare you in this day and age of enlightenment and technology and the free passage of information, how dare you not give me the exact same free liberties that you're giving your Christian-based heterosexual couples?
Once they got some acceptance, then they started getting pissed. Like, hey, wait a second. We should have the same be on the same playing field.
Well, I mean, what do you really expect from a government where it's full of old Caucasian men?
Well,
that from a certain era.
Government in general.
Here's the comment. I oppose federal efforts to redefine marriage as something other than a union between one man and one woman. I think that marriages should be between one single man and one single woman as a lifelong Christian. Now, listen, that is okay because that helps me say Ron Paul is just another guy. He's going to have certain opinions. There are going to be things that, as much as you guys, hate Obama, there are certain things that I think that he's done really well. I hate George W. Bush, but his AIDS program, but his AIDS program to Africa saved millions and millions of lives. So he did something that I thought was really productive. I agree a lot with Ron Paul. I was not trying to make a comment about Ron Paul saying, see, he's not perfect. I was saying that I like the fact of knowing that I can agree with many of the things that he says, but there are some things that I don't agree with because he's just another guy.
But that statement, though, is contrary to like a lot of other statements he's had on gay marriage in debates and in different interviews. Yeah, he's a Christian, so personally, he's against. He personally is against it, but he would not rob a gay person of their
rights just because he believed a certain way.
He believes in individual freedom above forcing his own morals upon everybody else in society.
There you go.
Right. And above that, he thinks government has no business telling you what you should do with your private life. And that statement alone, put it in bold italics and underline it 3 times. Have it sink into your skulls. Everybody who's listening to this, the government should not be involved in your day-to-day personal life. They should not be wiretapping you. They should not be telling you what to drink. They should not be telling you what not to do, not to put in your body, what to put in your body. You have personal choice, and you should have, we all should have, personal responsibility. It's an era of technology and information. If you don't fucking know what you're doing to yourself by now, you never will.
Do you think it's fear-based? Because, for me, so take it the Second Amendment. I have issues with guns. But if people are allowed to do what they want to do, carry a gun, put what they want in their body, we have laws that they'll be held accountable by.
Right.
And as long as it doesn't affect me, it should be fine. But if it does affect me, they're going to be held accountable for it, right? That's kind of how the whole gist of it is. That it almost sounds like a utopia that seems unattainable.
Because of the nature of government and the fact that they try to convince us that we need them, otherwise everything would just fall apart.
Because and I wonder too if it's convoluted by the law itself. Because if somebody were to kill somebody else because you can carry whatever you want wherever you want anytime you want because the law is there are no laws for that, and you decide to take somebody out, you're going to suffer the consequences from that.
Yeah, that's murder.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's not legal to carry that weapon that you.
But at the same time, in a society like that, I can also choose not to carry a weapon or be involved in guns at all if I don't want to, right? Yeah. I think that's what people feel like, that there has to be. Well, if you believe that way, this is all the things you believe. And if you believe this way, it's all those things. That's something that I think I can get behind. The idea that we need to remove all these rules. I can still live my life and live the way I want to live. but so can everybody else. And even though I may not want to walk around with somebody who has their gun on their hip, then that's my choice. I can choose not to be around them like that, But I still have my personal freedoms to do what I want to do, and one of those freedoms is choosing to not carry a gun if I don't want to, or not do drugs, or not be with people.
Definitely.
And this, what's weird is that I still wonder to this day why I have such a issue with guns. I wonder why I personally
have you ever shot one?
Oh, sure. See, I've shot
Deepak
guns.
Chopra is so ingrained in your skin.
No, it's like no.
mind.
It's a good point. Is that no? I've shot rifles and handguns. I mean, I've shot all kinds of guns, but
you demonize them. You look at them and you think of them as a killing thing.
But if I were,
that's it.
And that's the thing is that I see it as a tool to take another life. And I guess that is my only, because what is it used for otherwise? I know it's for protection,
but
but it's still to protect you. You're still going to take another life to protect a life.
Sure.
Right.
But do you see all guns that way, or just like a pistol or a shotgun?
I don't know.
AR-15.
I saw a handgun sitting on a bed the other day, and I was like, oh, fuck.
Where'd you see that at?
And my immediate reaction was like, not like, huh. It was like, whoa. It just catches me off guard because, listen, what I think of is not, a responsible gun owner, which I know somebody is, but part of me looks at that and goes, that is designed for one thing only, and that's to kill another person. And that's the part that I think I struggle with. Not that people shouldn't be able to protect themselves and there are bad people in the world and that kind of stuff. I have a hard time as a person going, maybe I'm not being honest with myself and saying the world's full of bad people and you should be able to protect yourself.
Right.
I don't know.
You know what? The whole gun debate, the whole gun issue, guns in general will be gone one day when somebody invents a shield. I used to watch the Stargate Atlantis.
Like one of them invisible domes around you.
Yeah, I'm
awesome.
saying the reason why you're laughing is because it's fucking ridiculous.
No, but it's
because
definitely possible.
There's always somebody who's going to hurt you, and you're going to want. The vast majority of people do not want to be hurt.
But you know what?
I think everybody would agree with this.
Or to hurt others.
As soon as the shield's invented, somebody's going to invent a gun that can penetrate the shield.
Go through the shield. But you're not going to do away with that stuff because people want to protect themselves.
Right.
There's somebody who's going to want to hurt somebody, and there's somebody who's going to want to protect themselves. And until you can say, I'm 100% protected, nobody can rape me. Nobody can hurt me. Nobody can stab me. No, I'm walking through a school. Nobody's going to end up shooting me. Until that day happens, there's always going to be a gun because you feel like you want to protect yourself. And the only way that you can truly protect yourself, well, you can't truly. If something bad's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Life is risky.
Your best chance of being able to protect yourself or get through a situation is to have something to equalize the situation. And that generally comes out to being a gun.
Yeah, because if one person,
because I'm not a ninja,
has a gun, you know what? The only way to equalize that is if you have one yourself. Bottom line. And for women, and I think it's especially important because they're vulnerable to being kidnapped, raped, you name it, beaten, and they go running, at night or whatever. Girls worry about that kind of shit,
Or I would say if we were like Wolverine, and I don't mean necessarily the bone claws. That would be fucking righteous. But I mean more along the lines of we're the only animal on this world that we don't have a badass defense mechanism in us.
Our brain.
We have our brain and we can run. But I can't protect myself. I don't have something that would come out of my body
like claws or something
and fucking kill this guy across the table if he decided I'm going to do something freaky right now.
Yeah.
Well, we're the only animal. Every other animal, they either have strong fucking jaws and sharp ass teeth.
I think we're aliens.
We have the opposable thumbs. We can grab shit.
Maybe I can poke you. Maybe I can poke in
jab your eyes.
Yeah.
But
other than that, you're fucked.
Well, you bring up a good point that there is such a huge difference between us and the rest of the animals in the world. That is crazy for me too.
You know what? You know what? Just started this shit out with the Bigfoot.
Oh, fuck. We did talk about that last time, didn't we? And the Loch Ness Monster,
we
too.
We can totally sum up this podcast to just a hangout with four guys. I'll wait till Todd comes back. Maybe I'll hit record again. We can talk about the Bigfoot controversy because there's if you have time.
Is there new info about the Bigfoot controversy?
There's not necessarily. I don't know if there's new info, but a guy gives a presentation on YouTube, and it's a long motherfucker, so I'm not going to have you watch it necessarily, but I will give you a link. And
I'll check it out.
But we can talk about it because I love it when people can give a presentation like that.
Is it somewhat compelling?
It's very compelling.
Is it?
And he uses a skull.
Oh, I can't wait to see this. I'm interested in this kind of stuff.
He uses a skull, and he says, this is the skull, and it's called the Star Child skull. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, it's the one between, right?
Yeah,
it's the
kind of ringing a bell. Yeah.
It's like the one between the monkey and the human, like the part in between.
No. They're actually saying that this skull is so
unique,
so undescribably different than anything that's out there right now. You can't say that it was head binding. You know, back in the day, women still kick ass and they work really hard. But back in the day, they had to go out and still farm and carry their kids around. They couldn't just leave them at a sitter's.
Sure.
And so they tied their kids to their backs, and they tied the kid's head flat to the back of this backpack type of thing, and it made the back of their heads completely flat, right? Sure. And it misshapened the children's head of certain cultures that did this. And so some people have said, well, that Star Child head is just from that. And this guy gives it extremely compelling. He's like, these are the fissure plates of where your skull of normal skulls.
And he has an actual one of these skulls with him.
Yeah. So he comes out and he's like, this is my whole theory. So maybe we can talk about maybe we'll get into that.
I will definitely look at whatever you send me.
We're an hour and 43 minutes into this.
Can I tell you
sum this up? Because I have a great Lincoln quote that I still never got to. Are we done with that?
Let me say one thing before you do your wrap up. Okay. And that's, first of all, I want to let you know how much I appreciate you there, Matt, and you, Rock, because I think that there are times where, as open and progressive and open-minded and liberal as I like to think of myself as, and I'm proud of that fact of myself, but at the same time, you guys do a really good job of helping me break down barriers, because even when you think you're open-minded, thinking you're open-minded is a barrier. And I don't think you give yourself a chance to see other perspectives. Because once I got with the idea of, I don't believe everything Ron Paul says, but I do like the core foundation of some of the things that he does talk about. You know what I mean? And so once I thought of, well, because they want to carry a gun doesn't mean that I have to carry a gun.
Of course not.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that I should be able to fit into the same society, because I think of the idea of a society full of guns sounds scary to me. But if you have reasonable gun people owning guns, then I shouldn't have to worry not carrying a gun. So, I mean, I think it's just an idea. It's a change of perspective that really helped me out. So, love you, man. I'm getting to love you. You're getting close. It's very close. You need a little bit more time.
Now listen, okay, I'm going to give you another racist quote by Abe Lincoln.
Let's hear it.
I'm not trying to come across as a hate Abe Lincoln.
But the truth is important.
The truth is important. What we're trying to say is it's great to get together with people with opposing ideas. It's great to come together and throw out ideas and maybe come up with a different paradigm, have a paradigm shift.
Get some understanding. Get some understanding of other points of view.
And you have to, and what's good is to get together with open-minded people that will also take what you say.
Yeah, and they're not just going to shout you down and make you feel like shit. But anyway, I'm saying this quote so that somebody can hear it. Maybe they'll absorb it. Maybe they absorbed Rock's earlier. Maybe they'll absorb this one. And they'll say,
mine? Can they absorb mine?
Probably not.
Oh, okay.
All right. But hopefully somebody will hear it and look into it, and they'll be like, hey, maybe I'll look into more historical things. Maybe there's more that I was taught and it just didn't jive. It wasn't correct. You know, maybe it was bullshit. So anyway, here's an Abe Lincoln quote. I will say then that I am not.
I thought you were going to hold your nose while you said it. I don't know why. You went like this, and I thought you were going to hold your nose.
I will say that I am not. No, I'm not going to do that, you fucking freak. Can I start now?
Please.
Jesus. You know what? The only thing that could have been more disruptive to me reading this quote is if you would have massaged my prostate.
I could throw my cock and balls on the table.
Yeah. All right. So here's the Abe Lincoln quote. I'll say this, and then Todd's going to give all the little ways that you can follow us, and then we'll sign off. Thank our guests. So here's the Abe Lincoln quote. I will say that I am not nor ever have been in favor of bringing about in any way the social and political equality of the white and black races. That I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of making voters or jurors of Negroes, nor of qualifying them to hold office, nor to intermarry with white people. And I will say, in addition to this, that there is a physical difference between the white and black races, which I believe will forever forbid the two races living together on terms of social and political equality. And inasmuch as they cannot so live, while they do remain together, there must be the position of superior and inferior. And as much as any other man am in favor of having the superior position assigned to the white race, I say upon this occasion, I do not perceive that because the white man is to have the superior position, the Negro should be denied everything.
I think I read that in a 6th grade social studies book, actually.
I was like, man, you are so fucking.
Where'd you go to school?
I was like, man, you have the most amazing brain I've ever heard of.
Let me tell you,
nobody got the joke.
We were thinking you're so smart about this stuff. I was like, oh shit, where'd he go to school? No wonder he's so fucking advanced.
Catholic school, man.
The source of that was the 4th debate with Stephen A. Douglas at Charleston,
wasn't that part of
Illinois.
You said part of that, yeah.
Some of that,
September 18th, 1858.
And remember, again, hopefully he changed and changed his perspective, but to get us involved in the war sometimes makes you question it.
Well, there's different causes for that war, too. I mean, we've kind of been led to believe it was nothing but slavery, but there was a lot of
economics is a huge part.
Well, they're starting to think that the slavery part was just a very minute point.
Extremely secondary.
It's like
dude, you watch Band of Brothers? I watch Band of Brothers, and I get to the end, and I'm like, you guys didn't even know there was Jewish concentration camps?
To think that
we went to war and you didn't even know that shit?
Just remember, people sell a war on things that can be. I mean, Syria was nothing other than gas children, and right? I mean, that's kind of the way it was sold to people. If
you really think about it, do you really think that the Northerners of the 1860s are really willing to volunteer in mass numbers to fight for black people's freedoms in the South? I'm talking about people from the 1860s, that mindset. Are they going to volunteer in mass quantities?
Not mass quantities.
We have a member of our family who was married to an ex-slave who gave substantial amounts of money to John Brown when John Brown had his revolution to tried to take over an armory and arm slaves to get them to help break out of their bondage, and it was shut down pretty quickly.
We come from a long line of abolitionists.
All right. Lead us out, Todd. Hey, Rock, thank you very much for being here. Junior, thank you very much for being a part of this.
And you'll hear Rock again. Junior is leaving for the Air Force on Tuesday.
Good luck, motherfucker.
Yes.
Good luck.
Don't change. Try not to change.
No.
Be the same the rest of your life.
No, I mean, don't let the Air Force change you. Please grow. No.
Change.
Jeez Louise.
You just stay the same, man.
Rock hasn't changed.
I'm the same dude ever since I was born.
Came out this way.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for following us tonight. We had a great time. Always, and that's the fastest hour and 45 minutes in a long time.
Yeah, we're at 150 now.
Fantastic podcast. But yeah, thank you for Rock and Junior for stepping in and helping us out when we lost our MMA fighter. But that's cool. We understand. Please go to theprimalscream.org. You can subscribe to us on iTunes there, as well as follow us on Facebook. We are on Twitter at The Primal Scream, at Matt and Todd. And we would love for you to hit us up, tell your friends about us, and keep on pushing it forward. We're pretty excited. We're enjoying ourselves. It is a complete free podcast. You want to donate? Click on that donation button and help Matt pay for the fucking computer he just bought.
Hey, listen.
Because I'm certainly not going to.
By the way, all donations go towards primarily the very first thing overhead gets paid for, and then the rest is going to be getting donated to local charities in our area. So I don't know. You gotta trust me when I say that.
Oh, we will. We both have jobs. We're pretty happy. We're going to be giving money away. So thanks for following us.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for being here tonight. I'm Matt.
I'm Todd.
I'm Rock.
I'm Junior.
We'll see you later.
Adios.